Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. However you happen to be watching and or listening to this, I want to welcome you to the latest episode of the Gaming Circle podcast. The podcast where, last week we had a little bit, the man wasn't feeling right. I wasn't feeling right. We were like, you know what? We're going to call it this week. But we are back this week because there's more to discuss. And there's a lot of games and a lot of discussions and some interesting talk that I think we're going to have this week. Of course, I am your host, Mr. K. Asante, TKO Asante, on all the places that we communicate. And I am, of course, joined this week, every week, gladly, by the man, the myth, the legend, the one who's still kind of sick a little bit, Mr. Everborn Saga. How you doing this morning?
I was just going to say the man is still not feeling well, but he's feeling well enough to work. So let's get into it.
Thank you. Appreciate you for being here. We're going to get into the games and all that, but of course, we are joined by returning champion, the man who is always the voice of reason on the Infinite podcast, which you'd think is Infinite Numbers podcast, but that. And of course, you say his name when the man shows up. What's going on, Infinite Numbers? He's in the chat right now. The one and only Dante J Moody. What's going on, Dante? Good morning, extra morning for you. I appreciate you waking up so early to come and hang out with us.
What's going on, bro? Appreciate it. Yeah, I was up a little bit too late last night. I was trying to catch up on Severance and the new Daredevil show on Disney. So finally got to bed around 12:30 or something. So it's morning for me. That's why you see me snacking and we got my coffee going. But I appreciate you guys for having me back because it's definitely always a good time when I hang out with y'all.
Yeah, bro.
Shout out to Soltech and Umbra in the chat, man. Good to see y'all, folks.
Yep. The great community already pulling up. What's going on? Like you said, Soltech, Umbra, what's going on? Big Mad Mo, what's going on? I see you, BT Maverick, all the great folks in here. Of course, MJ Dark, never too far around the corner when the show starts. Yes, we are here. I will say, housekeeping at the top. It is my son's birthday. Shout out to Julian. My little man has turned 6 years old today. My little platform gamer savant. Hence my Luigi shirt. He wears the Mario, so I got to rock the Luigi shirt. So today, this show will be 2 hours.
For the audio listeners, it is not the Down with Capitalism Luigi. It is the Luigi that you know and love.
Thank you.
I like you. Should we get that clarification out there, okay?
Because the audience might be confused. We're at a gaming show, and I talk about my Luigi shirt, and he wears the Mario, but the audience.
You never know these days. You never know.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. But yes, it is my little man Julia's birthday. He has turned 6 years old today, so we will be doing the best we can. There's a lot so I apologize early in advance for the potential noise of all the crazy children that will be running about around my house. We will try and keep the show concise, 2 hours, because the bounce house is floating over there and children and all of that. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. Today, there's a lot of news going on, of course. A lot of people talk about different things. I kind of didn't want to delve into the weekly sauce. Yeah, we could talk about all the odds and ends a little bit. I did see some interesting things, like some analysts talking about what GTA 6 can do and all of this. I kind of want to talk about what I think is a very interesting thing going on that I see in this community, and I know Everborn Saga sees it as well. Dante, I would love to hear your opinions on it, which is our perception and the reality of the matter. And that could be like taken to all aspects, like, the games that we're playing. And we'll start there, right? I'll say Avowed, and everybody will know exactly what I mean when I say perception versus reality. So we'll get into that. So that's the kind of conversation I want to have today. But first and foremost, I would say thank you all who are here. If you are here, you are fam. You're always here. We appreciate y'all. If you wouldn't mind, hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Maybe hit a retweet if you're on YouTube. Let folks know we are here. We're gonna keep it concise, but we still love that you're hanging out here with us today. But Dante, man, we haven't chatted with you in a little bit. Let's first and foremost see what you up to. I know you still rocking it at the Infinite Podcast, and then we'll ask you what game you are playing today. What games have been keeping you busy this week, sir?
Yeah, man. Yeah, so definitely still rocking with my family over at the Infinite Podcast. Man, games. Let's see. So like I think I've been playing a lot of like RPGs lately, but just finished Avowed. So I sunk about 70 some odd hours, a little bit over 70 hours in that and stuff. I think I completed like all the main missions.
One quick thing, because you said so, and it's at the top of the show. I must remember that my man, the Infinite Umber himself, will be hosting an Avowed roundtable. That's himself, the great slow-mo backslap, and of course the elusive man, Lucius Augustus, will be discussing Avowed in all aspects. I think they might be doing spoiler talk. I don't know how the situation will unfold. I'm sure there'll be a breakdown of non-spoiler versus spoiler and stuff. So sounds like it's gonna be an interesting chat. It will be at 1:00. I had set this whole show up to literally crawl into his show. So if it happened to run that long, it would do that. But we ain't doing that, son. We gonna be out here. So
keep it concise.
I will tell y'all from the top, please. The man Infinite Number. He's in the chat right now. Why don't you find him? Why don't you click on his name? There he is. Click on his name. Make sure you are following this man. Make sure you are hitting that bell icon. And at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, come check out that Avowed roundtable. I'm sure it will be crazy. I look forward to watching it, but at some point I will go la 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 because I haven't finished it yet. So y'all better have some sections for the non-finished it yet crowd. Just saying. But yeah, there you go. So Avowed, please, sir, continue.
Yeah, man. I mean, I sunk. I was pretty much knee deep in that one, like just consistently for a good like week and a half, I would think, for me to get to completion. So like after that, like I was like, I need to take a break because there was like 2 games that I did like 70 plus hours back to back. So I was kind of like, all right, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. So I haven't played anything this week. I've been just kind of chilling, rewatching the Expanse. That's one of my favorite shows.
Oh, and see, this is a man of culture, huh? A man of taste.
Also getting ready for Andor, so starting to rewatch that as well for season 2 to come out. And I think today I'm going to actually kind of resume gaming. So I think I'm gonna jump back into and I started Monster Hunter for a little bit like last weekend and played like a little bit. And I usually play like the Charge Blade. So I got to figure out how to play it within Wilds compared to like how it was in Rise. So I'll probably dive into that and see how the mechanics differ and try to get that particular thing going.
Where are you playing it
today? I'm on console, playing on Xbox. On the Series X. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's probably going to be what's going to be consuming me for a little bit is Monster Hunter Wilds until Assassin's Creed come out. So
yeah, that's close. That is so close at hand. I feel like I'm turning around and then games are just dropping on my lap. Like they're just showing up and I'm just like, huh, what happened?
Yeah.
Split Fiction when?
Backlogs is crazy if they're honest about it.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? Like the backlog can be crazy if you're honest about it. There's lots of stuff to play.
I blinked. I was busy about my life. I turned around and Split Fiction just showed up. And it's getting 10s across the board. I'm like, I thought this was I saw the trailer. I thought it was gonna be great. This fall at some point, we're gonna play. No, it is here right now, today. And I'm in a conundrum where who am I gonna play with? If I play with my wife, daughter's gonna get upset. If I play with the daughter, wife's gonna get upset. So I haven't played it yet.
You don't want to end up in you don't want to end up in the Everborn Saga situation.
Yes, I remember your tale. I have a similar tale. So now I'm kind of like, I don't know. Maybe what I'll do is, since I did play a little bit of It Takes Two with the wife, I'll play because my daughter and I have not played It Takes Two. So I'll play It Takes Two with her, and then maybe we'll play Split Fiction with wifey, and then we'll switch. We'll see how it goes down. But anyway. So yeah, the backlog is crazy. We're getting into new stuff. Mr. Everborn Saga, sir, how about you? What games you been playing, man? What's been keeping you busy this week?
The same 2 games I've been playing for the last month, which is Blasphemous 2 on the handheld, which I'm stuck on a boss, and Avowed, which I'm now 20 hours into, and so I have not left the first.
I must interrupt you because I had a graybeard moment, a very, very funny graybeard, and I have to share it because only maybe few people will understand what I'm saying. As soon as I asked the question, you were like, well, the same thing I've been doing every week. And the first thing it reminded me of,
to take over the world. I know it.
Exactly.
I know.
Same thing we do every week, Pinky. Try to take over the world. I just heard Pinky in the brain in my head. I'm sorry.
Man, got his focus on.
Yeah, so I'm no lifing these 2 games until completion. I don't know if we had this discussion, but now is maybe a good time to have it. I have only one complaint with Avowed, and it is that goddamn voice.
We had this conversation, bro.
We had it on Discord. I don't think we had it on GCP.
Okay.
So,
speak on it. Go ahead.
Which is why if you're not in
Dante
Discord,
finished the game, so let's go.
All right. So my issue here, I think the game is very fun. I love the level design. I'm playing third person 75 POV. Trust me, if you play third person, put it on 75. It's gonna feel a lot better as a third person game.
Nice.
Now, because I started off first person throughout the first set of the first kind of area, and then like once I ended up switching it, I think like maybe the second or third area, and then I played third person the rest of the way too with that particular FOV.
With 75?
Yeah. Yep. And then I just kept it in there. And I didn't even notice it because you can obviously quickly toggle back and forth between them. But before I knew it, I was like, oh man, I haven't really switched back into first person forever. Like that additional awareness to see like where attacks are coming from in third person. It was a lot easier to deal with mobs compared to when I'm in first person.
Yeah. So, so the way that the voice interacts with you, it's some kind of being. I don't know where it's going, but what I do know is the way it's presented, where you're just laying on a rock and you hear the most monotone voice with all of the sleep REM sound effects added to it. And again, I'm playing this game usually. These are my gaming hours, like between 10 and midnight, 1 in the morning, whatever. This like and I just will go back to camp because I want to upgrade a weapon, and now I got to go through a whole dialogue chain of the most boring voice in the entire game. And it's like there's nothing visually stimulating. You're just showing the character laying on a rock. Like, I don't know who thought it was a good idea to present this information in this way. Like, I actually hate it. And I find myself like angry and upset every time I have to talk to this thing, because it takes you out of whatever you're trying to do. And there's different ways that this could have been done. So whether that is what they wanted from the voice performer or not, I believe that a different voice performer could have delivered that in a more interesting way. And again, the visual of it, of just sort of you're laying there with a white slab. Yeah, it's like, are you trying to put me to sleep? For an otherwise, like, what I think is a great game, I just hate that aspect of it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, as the game progresses and those interactions happen when you're at your camp, like you always see like the dialogue choice getting a little bit more angry too about the interruption. So like it's almost like they know that, and it keeps giving you the option to be like, yo, just let me sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do you keep bothering me at this particular time? So it seems like they know exactly how you're feeling, and that maybe that was intentional.
Yeah, but I don't want to brush it off because it might have a story payoff later, and then it's going to be like, you didn't listen, or so now I'm like, I have to go through this. It is A. Rodimus in the chat. Night Quill Everborn sounds like he is just woke up. Yeah, no, I've been up since 5 a.m. I'm just still under the weather, but that voice in Avowed is digital Night Quill. This is Aloy levels of boring.
Sure. I knew he was going to do that one. I knew that was going to happen. Okay. All right. Okay. So,
but other than that, like I've explored most of the first area. So I'm about to go. I'm about to go to the second area, and we'll see what happened. Like, I got that flaming sword. So I did one respec once I started to understand what the game was asking of me. But I really think they put something good together here. So
yeah. So you're still in Dawn Shore, right?
Yeah. I'm no. Well, I already opened the gate. It's just that before I opened the gate to leave, like they opened the gate, and before I went through it, I was like, let me go let me go finish all the other open side quests I have. So I did that,
Yeah.
and now I'm ready to go to the next area.
Nice. Yeah, you'll probably be like in the next area for another 20 hours if you're doing the same thing in terms of completionist, and same thing for the third region. So yeah. Buckle up.
If you don't like the idea of that fog over there, you better get ready, because the second area, like I spent the ungodly amounts of hours in that first area just trying to clear that fog, trying to
clear the fog.
No, here's the thing. I didn't do it that way. So I actually still have a lot of fog, but what I wanted to do was any side quest I had open, I wanted to clear it before I left.
Shout out to the great Game Logic gifting 5.
What's happening?
What's going on, brother?
Also,
thank you
Game Logic did like a tweet / article about the AMD cards. Follow him, check it out. Some insightful stuff in there.
You know, Mr. Logic, we may want to ask you to, do some of that wonderful stuff on a certain website that we'll talk about later. It's fine. I'll hit you in the DM. Anyway, thank you for being here, and thank you for the support. We appreciate it, man. And to the 5 folks who got some of the memberships, hey, salute to Game Logic. Give him a pound.
Yeah, if you got a membership, just shout the man out.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get back to it. I have spent ungodly amounts of time just kind of rummaging through the area, and every time I do, I find something that made me go, "Yep, it was worth it." It's really it's unusual how well crafted this game is, and how every single room has a corner, every corner has a space, and that space has a chest or a dead body you can loot or something. It's always beneficial to look around the corner. It's great. I really enjoying my time with it. How much time did you take to fully complete your time, Dante?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit just over 70 hours. It's probably like 71, 72 or something like that. But yeah, I completely agree with you. Like what they really have done well is they reward your exploration. Like some games you'll be like, hey, what's on that weird ledge right there? Can I get to that? And if I can get to that, and if I can keep kind of, navigate my way up to a particular area, is just going to just me getting to the top of something to turn around and be like, oh, nice, you wasted your time, right? But there'll be like some type of shiny, you know what I'm saying? There's like a chest up there, or there's some type of, there's something that's going to basically reward your effort for doing the exploration. So I think hats off to Obsidian for that design in terms of making the exploration rewarding. And also with the I know some people probably hate the fog map. If I have a complaint, it's kind of like, I feel like it's a little too sensitive, meaning like I have to if I circle an area and I'm like, I'm thinking that whole area would expand where the fog would clear, but it's like, nah, you got to really walk. You know what I'm saying? You got to walk in this little patch in order to get the fog to go away. So I was like, all right, that's kind of whatever. But if you're that person who that bothers you, you'll say to yourself, I want to clear this fog. So it's going to basically help you to continue to explore, but then you get rewarded for doing so, right? You're going to find all types of weapons that you may or may not use. I think I really probably took the flaming sword and leveled it up to max and rocked it.
I am too. Currently, my flaming sword is almost at max. I love that thing. It's great. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I really like Avowed as just it doesn't have to be an all-encompassing experience. You know what I'm saying? And that brings me to my first part of perception versus reality. I have spent, and I try not to, I really try not to. I've spent a little bit of time on the timeline, just kind of reading people's thoughts about Avowed and how people are playing it. And, I'm getting people showing me awesome builds and, that kind of conversation, which is always cool. What loadout you got, because that loadout conversation is always very interesting. How you're taking down certain bad guys and why you made certain decisions, things like that. But I also find that a lot of the conversations also around how it's missing things, or how it's a sad version of Skyrim, or so it's perceived. I mean, I admittedly, I am not that diehard Skyrim a person. I'm not. I played through Skyrim. I put many hours in Skyrim. I think I own as many copies as most people do, but I'm not that diehard, gotta play it every year person when it comes to that. But I do feel like while this game has certain this genre has certain Venn diagrams that overlap. It does Avowed does stand out on its own and does something interesting and unique on its own. It doesn't have to be better than Skyrim, but I feel like a lot of the perception in the community or in gaming, with people who have taken to this game in general, is that it's good, but Avowed is not Skyrim, and that's detrimental to it. Am I the only one?
Yeah, I don't really subscribe to that line of thinking, right?
Yeah,
like,
me neither. I think it's ridiculous.
Avowed is not a transformative game, right? And if you don't like it, that's your business or whatever. But like,
yeah,
I think it's fun. I think it's serviceable, and I think it's worth the time that I've been putting into it. I don't like. Again, it's a thing. I don't want to say it bothers me, but it's just like tiresome with the binary thinking, where a thing needs to be like an 11 every time, right? Like right now, my in progress review of this game with 20 hours to back my thoughts is like an 8, 8.5. But again, it lost points because of that voice. I almost cursed. But I think I really like what they did with the combat, and any game that rewards your exploration and doesn't have a lot of like filler map, because that's one thing, right? If you're gonna have a fogged up map that you need to clear out, don't have me going places and then I'm going there for nothing, right? Every time, not every time, but like most times when I go someplace, there's either a fun battle or some loot that it was worth my time, right?
Yep.
So to me, this is what I look for in a game design to keep me coming back. And the only other thing I'll say is, I don't want to compare it to Veilguard, but I did not gel well with Veilguard, and I had a similar amount of time. I think I put 18 hours into it before I just said this is not for me. But here, I don't know that I care about what is happening in the story as of yet. What game log? You want to read that?
Yeah. Go ahead. I was gonna put it. I was gonna put it up and read it after you were done.
Okay, yeah.
Read it now.
So well, go ahead, read it now. I'll finish my thought after.
Sure. Game Logic says the industry chasing 9s and 10s for every game is what is in trouble. Plenty of room for fun in games in the era that are a 6 to an 8, especially if it exactly, yeah, especially if it's in your wheelhouse genre or if it's from your favorite studio. Absolutely, sir. We completely agree. Not everything needs to be a 10. Go ahead, Everborn. You were saying.
Yeah. So, what was I saying? Where was I?
You were discussing the perception that this game.
Oh yeah. Like Veilguard. Okay, yeah. So, I don't know that I care about what's happening yet. But unlike Veilguard, the characters are not annoying me. And I found myself annoyed the more I played Veilguard. And these characters are serviceable. They're fine. I just don't care about them. And hopefully that's a yet. We'll see what happens as I progress through it. Because I haven't gone on any of the companion quests yet. I haven't really had that chance to build a relationship. But like their dialogue is fine. The world is interesting enough. I just don't know that I feel the threat of the Dream Scourge yet. So
true. Okay.
I think it is just I'm going through the world just to as an explorer. No, not through the motions. I'm just going through the world as an explorer. Not I don't feel like someone who is, I think that's trying to save the world or whatever. Yeah, so we'll see when I leave Dawnshore. Maybe that'll change.
Yeah, you're about to come across a particular important decision in your next area, which might, at least in terms of that feeling about the Dream Scourge, I think will maybe challenge your perception on that one.
Yeah, so I don't feel like this is important yet, but we'll see. But top marks, not top marks, but good marks.
Zero member for 10 months. He then follows it up with a $2 super chat and says, "Salute to all Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here. And by the way, to your talk about where the Dream Scourge shows its real teeth. Lucius in the chat says the second area is where it really changes, where it really starts to show the threat of the Dream Scourge. So maybe you just need to kind of get a little bit further into the mix before you start seeing it. I'm kind of at the early stages of the second stage myself, but there were a few threads in the first stage that I didn't want to leave hanging before I focus on the second. So I'm kind of like going back and forth a little bit. But yeah, like I just really started that second area, and I'm about 2.5 days into the game, something like that. So yeah, it's all encompassing.
Yeah, and before we move on, I just want to let the people know about some deals that I got this week.
Okay. Speak
on. I don't know if this is still active, but it was either on Humble Bundle or Fanatical. I think it was Humble Bundle. You get Hyper Light Breaker for $4.50,
which is awesome because Breaker's good. It's just in early days and it needs to get fixed. It's getting early.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any plans on playing it anytime soon, but like $5, I'll throw it in the backlog. And then another one that I picked up this week is most of you probably have this, but if you've transitioned to PC recently, maybe you need to get it again. But the Arkham series, you can get also for $4.75 on CD keys, and you'll get all 3 of the games. So you'll get Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight for under $5. And then if you're into the Monster Boy series, they did Dragon's Trap, which is my favorite of the ones they brought back, but there's also Cursed Something. That's normally a $30 game. It's on sale right now for $7.50. So it's a really good 2D platformer if you remember Monster Boy.
This man is out here trying to get the good deals, give the people the good deals. If you want, I will give you one right now. On the topic of Humble Bundle, they have a Capcom bundle going on, which is called the Arcade Classics and Fighting Pack. 70, count them, 70 Capcom classic games for $20. And that includes all the Street Fighters, except for the newest. So you get half off of Street Fighter 6, I should say. But you get 5, 4, all of them, including 70 games. So all of the classics, all the arcades, any and all that you can remember, right? All you old heads out there that remember like your shooters, your legendary wings, all those old classics, stuff like that. If I made a call out that you remember, trust me, it's all in this collection. 70 games, $20. Humble Bundle, pretty cool. So there's that. Mr. Everborn Saga, anything else that you've been playing, sir, in the rotation besides Avowed? And you said Avowed and Blasphemous 2, right?
Yes.
How's Blasphemous 2 going? I know you were no-lifing Blasphemous 1 for a long time. How's Blasphemous 2 going?
Blasphemous 1 took me about 40 hours, and then I finished it, and I started 2. I'm like around 15 hours into it. The way that game is set up, when it first starts, you got 3 bosses you got to take down, and you can do them in any order you want. I took down one of them, and now the other 2 are both giving me a hard time. So I'm in the explore a little bit more so I can get some more vials and increase my health, and then I'll try to go back and fight them. But they are stingy as all get out in part 2 with giving you the health upgrades.
Is it as difficult as it looked as the first one? Is it like really like
it's more difficult than
nail biting?
It's more difficult than the first one.
Wow.
And I actually don't know that I like I went back and forth on it, right? So I said I like the presentation of the first one better. And then I get into the second one and I see the different things that they're doing, and it feels more like a game than the first one did. Not that the first one didn't feel like a game, but first one felt like you were playing a piece of Renaissance era art. Yep. This one just kind of feels like a game. And this one, like in the first one, you were able to just unlock a bunch of powers, and in part 2, you have to basically switch between your weapons in order to unlock those powers. Right? So it's like it's kind of slowing you down, right? So for example, if I wanted to kind of do a dash attack, I have to switch to a certain weapon to do that. Whereas in the first one, you would just unlock the dash attack and upgrade it. So I don't like that. I don't want to have to think like I have to think which weapon am I using.
What loadout do you have to do?
I don't like that.
Confusing things a bit.
Yeah. It's first of all, I want to know where that double jump came from because I have not unlocked that yet. But
every time we see footage of this game, this man learns something new.
No, I knew that there had to be a double jump somewhere because there's some places where you just can't get to. But I just feel like the way part 2 doles out your power-ups is very stingy. Very stingy.
So part I'm not better with the dole out of our progression. Okay, understood. But still, this game has gotten many accolades. It is being considered like one of the great platformers. Do you still agree? As many hours in as you are?
Come again? I was reading the chat. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. I said this game has still received so many accolades as one of the great like 2D platformers /
No. It's fantastic, right? I highly recommend it. I am just because I have the fortune to have just played part 1 right before this. The comparison is like I can make. I'm making comparisons based on having just played the first one. So, but yeah, I do think I think it's a fantastic Metroidvania, one of the best in the genre, in my opinion. And I hope this isn't the last one. But it is really good. It is punishingly difficult when it wants to be. But you do feel rewarded when you can take down one of those difficult enemies. So
very cool. I started Blasphemous 1 and I knew I could see what it was because I play these kind of Metroidvania style games a lot, and I knew what this was going to be, and something took me away. I don't know what it was that took me away, but I just have not gone back to it. But I am waiting. I'm waiting now because since we're kind of in between like generations of consoles and things like that, I've been doing a lot of me. I like fun tech stuff and stuff. So I've been waiting for the Odin 2 portal. It's like a little handheld, Android based, and it runs a version of Linux that you can run these kind of games on. So even though it's Android, you can actually run proper full-fledged games on it if you put Android the Linux version distribution on it. So I've been patiently waiting. It's supposed to be here in March. Patiently waiting to play these kind of games on it because it's got this OLED screen. It's like really, really cool. When it comes, I will share how it's doing. And speaking of that, I actually did share a video.
One thing before you get to that video, I don't know if I spoke about this 2 weeks ago. I'm pretty sure that I did not. But there was a Sega sale, who, by the way, won Publisher of the Year, Metacritic Publisher of the Year.
Oh yeah, that's true, right? Which you said it was going to be Microsoft, right? Didn't you think it was going to be Microsoft again this year?
But that I mean, I was talking about for 2025 because of what the lineup is.
Sure.
And Sega won it this year, but it's for what they did in 2024. But I picked up Sonic Superstars to play because I originally played it on the Xbox, and I gave it like, I don't know, 7.5, 8 out of 10, whatever. It felt a little uninspired, but I don't know what it is about that game specifically. I bought it because it was on sale. Sega had a sale, and playing it on a handheld really changed my perception of that game. And I actually think it's actually really well done.
It's not bad. Yes, when you play it on a handheld, I played that game exclusively on a handheld, and it felt so much better. Yes.
Yeah.
If you're in couch mode and you're sitting there, it feels a little less than. But if you're in handheld mode and you're just like, it just feels great. Don't know. It just felt better there for me anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I had like a deja vu moment when I was like sitting on the bus with my 18 AA batteries playing Sonic on the Game Gear. And I'm just looking at this thing on the screen, like appreciating how far we've come.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I got the feels playing that one. So
this was in the deck or the Ally X?
No. I gave my deck I gave a bunch of decks.
So
away. I'm on the Ally X. Yeah.
Okay.
Although I'm going back and forth about whether I should put Steam OS on that thing when it comes out.
You mean Bazite or Steam OS?
No, I mean literally Steam OS in April.
When
they release it to the public.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but yes, real quick, I put out a video, just me playing around. The last week we did not have a show. We weren't feeling well, as I said, and I was just happened to be in my like sometimes I like to sit in my patio, just kind of hang out, just chill. Kids playing, Florida things. Anyway, so I decided to do a little weekend project, and I installed Bazite on my little handheld here. And it is installed on this little USB stick here. So as soon as I unplug it, it goes back to Windows. And when I want to use Bazite, boom, I plug it in and it's on Bazite. Seems to be working out very well. I really enjoyed it. So I shared a bit of that. So if you like it, go check out the video. Maybe leave a comment on the video. Let me know if you want me to do a tutorial or something. I'm thinking of doing one of these days a setup where we can you can see the hands at work. You can see the screen. We could do a tutorial, talk through the process, whatever. So just one of those things. I'm thinking of adding more instructional kind of tutorialized stuff to our channel lineup. So let us know what you think in them comment sections. We appreciate y'all continued support. Before we continue, the great Hollywood Rules joins us with a $5 super chat. Good morning, sir. He says, "Good morning, fellow graybeards. I'm loving Avowed so far. I find the exploration and the combat addictive. Just started the second area myself. Fun stuff." Thank you, sir. Appreciate your support. I agree. Like, I am having a really great time with that game, even on a handheld, by the way. Which that's the reason why I didn't go full what do you call it, Bazite Steam OS on this thing, because I wanted to play Avowed on this, and Avowed I didn't buy it on Steam. I was provided a code for Microsoft on their store, so it's always good to be able to tap into their store as well. So yes, I too am really enjoying Avowed. There'll be more talk of Avowed, I suspect. The great Slow-Mo Backslap, who's been a member for 12 months, he says Avowed is a good, not great game, and that is fine. That's true. Hey, look, I can say it's great. He can say it's good. And if it's good, that doesn't mean it's trash. It means it's good. That's fine. It doesn't have to be. I see what he is saying. I am hearing a lot of people going either you have to say it's the greatest thing ever, or it's unacceptable, which not everyone's going to think that way. I like my time with it. I'm enjoying my time with it. I personally think it rises above the level of just good. But if it is just good for you, that's fine. Absolutely. Hollywood Rules follows up with a $5 super chat. He says, "My people that love 80s movie fare, RoboCop Rogue City is on sale 80% off on Steam for $9. And Terminator Resistance Complete Edition on Xbox Store is 60% off for $20. That part, the Terminator Resistance, I have not played that. I hear so many good things about that. And I played Rogue City. Rogue City was awesome. I'm an 80s baby, so I love all those movies, and it was very much a deja vu. So I might have to seek out Terminator Resistance. I want to play that. But thank you for your support, brother. It's always good to see you here. Thank you so much for being here. But yes, let us get back to it. Let me think. I think maybe it's my turn to talk a little bit about some games that I've been playing. Unless Everborn, you have something else you wanted to add?
Nope. Just those two games.
There you go. Okay. His silence says I think he is done. Let me talk about the game I've been playing. And I've spoken about this game before, but honestly, I think the more I play it, the more I'm like, people need to be playing this. Like, a lot more people need to be playing this. And what am I talking about? I am talking about Eternal Strands. I've spoken about it before. I spoke about it 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And at the time, I had just put a little bit of time into it. And I liked what I was playing, but there was always the idea of the thought that I was like, yeah, it had that indie, a little bit of that indie fare that people can take or leave, right? Sometimes. But the more I've played through it, and in the later stages of the game, you obviously you're getting more powerful, you're becoming more powerful, you're gaining more strength, things like that. And then you're able to start taking down the colossi, as it were, in a realer way. I really think this game hides the good stuff in the late game, like really, really good stuff in the late game. Because and this is not my footage. I will link the person whose footage I took the YouTube channel. But when you start this game and the early momentum and the early feel, that feeling of it's all right, I don't know how I feel about it. It doesn't grab you. I have found that a lot of people have complained that early sentiment is not like as tight as they want it to be. But the mid to the late game is wild. It's so good, right? You start as I said some time ago, and I'll give you a quick background right from the jump. The game starts you off. You are a weaver. You're basically a scout for a band of rogues, if you will. And these weavers have superpowers. They have special powers. You throw fire. You throw ice. You have your sword and board. So, and as you go along, you get more powers, and that's where the RPG elements kick in, right? You're maturing your skill set. You're getting better weapons. You're crafting. You're upgrading. All of that stuff.
Hands. Right? You throw them hands.
You throw them hands. If you don't have any of your weapons equipped, and you're up in there, you're throwing hands. You're throwing hands and feet. You're giving it to everyone, all of them. You know what I'm saying?
What's this on?
It's a good game.
What platforms?
Everything. It's in Game Pass right now, at this very moment, and it is unusually time sucking. Like, so as you can see, it looks a little painterly. It's got that little Fortnite kind of style to it. It also kind of harkens back a little bit to your Breath of the Wild a little bit from an art style perspective. And that Breath of the Wild comparison goes a little further because it also does have Breath of the Wild, if you will, style. What do you call it? Physics system. I'll move forward a little bit in this video because I want you guys to see some of the good stuff, because honestly, I think that's the biggest criticism of this game. They leave the good stuff behind. They don't let you see that good stuff. That good stuff is what you should be seeing from day one, and more people will be playing it. It has a very tight physics system, meaning fire will burn, ice will freeze. If you're not equipped for it, it will hurt you or it will freeze you. So too it will do the enemies, stuff like that. When you're doing battle, there are colossi in the environment, and as you can see in the game right now, there are just normal guys that are walking, and even they can get you if you're not watching your back, because they roll in packs, and they always come with what do you call it, crossbows. So like one is looking at you, you're dealing with this person, and they always know to flank you and then crossbow you from back. So as soon as you see one, you better start moving and shaking, because they're gonna come crossbow, and if you're not careful, you're done. And the idea of the game is basically to gather as much resources, at least in the early part of the game, is to gather as much of the resources as you can. You're taking quests. You're just doing things for people in your camp. There's companion quests and all of that. Here's one of these cool battles, which we'll see. But when you're in this world, you're gathering these resources, and you're putting it in your pack. You're putting it in your pack. So when you get to a place where you're dying, if you die, they have this mechanic where the leader of the band will pull you back, so you're not technically dead. It brings you back, but you only get to keep like a small subset of your earnings, of the loot that you've collected, and the crafting material. So it's very like important that you go back home when you have enough material that you think you don't want to lose, to basically put it back in your stash, and then go back out and do that. So it's got that. But as you see on the screen, like It has a lot of combat with really big monsters and stuff. This one's even just like a normal battle. Most of the battles are very vertical, as you're seeing here. You climb on the back
You can climb on top of
your
the
animals.
enemy.
That's right.
It's like
And
weak
then
spots.
you can start. That's right. You start exploiting weak spots. What's super interesting, what I really love about this, what made me go, okay, I really see what you guys are doing here. You start the game with ice and levitate. You get fire. You can get like combustion. Lots of different powers, right? And when you're fighting these colossi, as they should be referred to, they have pieces of their armor set, pieces of them that you want, right? So you climb on them, and you can sometimes use ice in your ice powers to freeze that area, which makes it brittle. So that when you start smacking it, it breaks off. Stuff like that. Like they have very, very fine-tuned physics and huge, tall, skyscraper-sized monsters, and you're this little teeny tiny thing, and you're just sitting there and like, you know, you find interesting ways of traversing stuff. Stuff that's super interesting that people are liking. You know how in Avowed you can freeze ice, freeze lakes and water. Same here. You can freeze lakes and waters. You can use the ice as a bridge. I can literally walk around like Iceman, you know, and just like freeze my bridges and then walk over it and then break it, you know, stuff like that. You see an area, you can make a kill box, run, bring everybody close, bring a bunch of like explosive barrels in a small contained area. Your enemies chase you, you drop your fireball, explodes, and all these enemies. Like, it's very good with the sandbox style of interactions. So I've been putting a lot of time into it. I think I will spend, if I can get a chance to, because you know it's the weekend and parties and all that. If I can get a chance to, I will put my thoughts in a review on thegamingcircle.com. I think I want to. I'm close to the end. I think end game is close at hand on it. So I will do it. But I will say I really think people should spend some time in it. I really like it. The early game is slow. The early game is one of my favorite words is lugubrious. It's just slow and monotonous sometimes, or how it feels, and it kind of might make people feel might disconnect you. You might not want to stick with it. I see you, Victor Alstein. Yes, it does have an Immortals Phoenix Rising kind of style as well in the art style, right? If you stick with it, you might find something. Yeah, it does have that style. If you stick with it, I think you might find something to like. It's a very interesting game. I really do think it like there's potential here. There's room for it to grow. There's room for DLC and a more expanded world. They got something here. And by the way, real quick before we move on, this was a project by a former developer on Dragon Age, and actually all the Dragon Ages. So there's a lot of BioWare lineage in this game. So if you like that kind of game, you like their style stuff, this has some lineage of that. You can feel it. Campaign quests and, you know, the shepherd who's the one who's leading the flock, you know, all that. There's a lot of lineage in BioWare in this game as I'm playing it. But yes, it's pretty cool. I really enjoy it. So if you have a chance to check it out, that's this and Avowed has literally been what's taking up most of my time. I've been enjoying it. While we're having like really interesting, deep Discord chats, you know, this is the stuff that I'm playing in the background. Either I'm sharing on my screen or I'm just kind of playing it and chatting with the boys and having a good time. So, cheap plug. Join us in the Discord. We have a great time in there. Myself, Mr. Everborn Saga, all the community members. A lot of people just jump in, jump out. You know, you're going about your day. You have some time. You want to talk games or otherwise, because we talk a lot of different conversations in there. But yeah, join us in the Discord. If you want to know how to join us on this channel right now, if you click about this channel, you will see that Discord invite right there next to the Twitter handle and all of that. Click in there and join us. We appreciate you. All the members of this channel, and if you're a member, we appreciate you even more. Thank you so much. Those members all automatically get a VIP channel in our Discord, and from time to time we drop codes in there, and you know, I hang out in there from time to time and just chat with the people. So yeah, we're trying to put some value to our community. But yeah, let's move on. I think it's time we talk about the conversation because again, I'm trying to keep it concise this week. We're gonna keep it nice to 2 hours. We're close to the halfway point, which is perfect. So now we can yeah, right. See, this is working out. So now we can talk about what I want to talk about, which again, as I said, to me, it's been a very interesting conversation and an interesting space where I see a lot of people having their perception of things versus reality of things. And I'm not even saying that that's limited to the consumer. I'm not even saying that's limited to the gamer. I also think that's also the companies, the gaming companies that we follow, that we talk about, whose games we love and whose platforms we game on. I feel like their perception of us sometimes belays the reality. So I kind of wanted to peel that back a little bit. Myself and Everborn been chatting about it a little bit. I know Dante, you might have some thoughts on that. First and foremost, to get this thing started, I'll start with you, Dante. This all culminated. This all started with the conversation that I've been having with a bunch of the community members in Discord about their Xbox and their move to change their business model and why they chose to move to their business model, right? Some people are quick to shout that it looks like their losses have compounded them to now force to change the paradigm in order to hopefully make up for it. Others say, hey, this was a foregone conclusion. It was always gonna happen this way. I have to start and ask you, Dante, where do you fall? I know you probably have these similar conversations. We're all gamers. We're in these communities. Where do you fall? How do you feel they are now? And was this always going to be this way, or is this because of their failures in this space?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know about like if it was always, but to me, I look at the bigger pictures, and some people aren't gonna like this if you're someone who's really you have an affinity towards whatever piece of hardware that you play on, right? But my thought process is, what does it matter in terms of like, if Xbox is releasing games on multiple consoles, what do I care? As long as I still get to enjoy their games. I'm a Game Pass subscriber. I prefer playing on the Xbox, so I don't care if you put games on PC or PlayStation, Nintendo. That doesn't impact me one way. It doesn't make me go out and say I'm going to buy a PlayStation or like I need to start switching playing on PlayStation because the games are going to be there. If I prefer playing there, then that's what I would do. How we got here, that can be a debatable topic. I think Phil actually has something where he can hold on to, where he says that like, hey, they lost the most important generation, which is when things start to really go digital, right? So you get people who are like, hey, I'm in my digital library. I'm invested hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in games that I purchased within that kind of PS4 era. And then they kind of, drop the ball a little bit with the Xbox One, obviously. And so now you got the zeitgeist moment that kicks in after that for PlayStation, right? Where basically it just becomes ubiquitous for people to say, if you're getting a console, I'm getting a PlayStation, right? Is it PS4 or PS5? You can see it in memes, and that's a hard thing to combat. So I think they're doing what they feel needs to be done in order to stay relevant within the space, right? Because if you're not basically winning in hardware, software is where they make most of their money anyway. So it's like it makes sense to pivot and say, we want to basically still stay in the game, but you don't want to just concede everything to PlayStation. So you want to go ahead and get games to as many gamers as possible. So to me, that makes sense. I can understand diehard Xbox fans because I've been with Xbox since day one as well. So I definitely get the sentiment, but I'd rather Xbox still be around than have closed up tent, because they were basically concerned about losing the hardware battle to PlayStation and Nintendo, right? Because you're just not going to change that. You're not going to get that person who's like really entrenched in playing like PlayStation games to be like, I'm going to go out and buy an Xbox right now. Because you even kind of see it with the narratives for certain games that drop, that people have these opinions about a game before it even releases just because of what studio it's coming from, if it's an Xbox published game. So that it automatically kind of gets this attack versus like, let's see what that game's like. If I enjoy it, maybe that might be something to make me want to do that. Like that objectivity is kind of out the window, where people kind of discredit something automatically due to the fact that it's on one console or the other. So since you can't do that, you're just going to say, okay, great. we're going to put our games as many places as we possibly can. And then if there are people on PlayStation who are purchasing those games and the other people hear about it, even maybe the naysayers kind of like, well, I'm hearing a lot of buzz about this. Maybe I need to pick it up too. And now they're playing some Xbox games, which in turn means Microsoft still continues to keep Xbox open, and I get to still benefit from it if I'm a Game Pass subscriber, and hopefully for them to continue to release hardware. So sadly, the perception of gaming has definitely changed and soured, in my opinion. From I think to be quite honest, man, the social aspect of it is kind of ruined it a little bit, where it becomes these two divided camps, right? You know, like Nintendo's just doing Nintendo things, but it's mainly PlayStation and Xbox guys who are kind of doing this weird war. And it's got to this point now where it's like, it's not about the games. And that to me is what's got lost, because I'm an old head. I started off on Atari, you know what I'm saying? So to see like where gaming is now, I'm just always like, man, I can't believe we have all these great things to play, and the way the art form and the skill level of, like, I'm actually playing these crazy immersive games I only dreamed about when I saw, you know, when I played it on an Atari, I played on Nintendo. And so to me, I respect that. But other people, I think, who are, they don't have that type of perspective. It's just kind of like, I can only enjoy this if this is coming from a company that I support on my preferred brand. So that's the perspective that I think is really unfortunate within the medium. And I'm hoping that over time, maybe that changes. But from what I'm saying, I'm just, you know, Xbox, do what you're gonna do. If the games are good, put them out there. Eventually, the gamers will come. Is what I think they got to keep doing, and I don't blame them for kind of adjusting themselves to stay relevant within the space.
Everyone, sorry, I will get your take on this one. I will add the fact that this also is this is a part and parcel of a conversation that came forth because of a great, excellent interview that was done by the brothers over at Gamer Tag Radio. Shout out to Paris Lily. Shout out to where hold on. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so there's Paris Lily and Danny Pena, the great channel. They did a great interview with the one Peter Moore. And they started talking about all this, you know, the 360 gen and the quote unquote good old days, as you recall. And it came up, you know, why they felt the way they did about how the great gaming generation went, and what they felt about the competition and exclusivity and what it meant and all that. I won't like break it all down here, but folks, if you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. They did a great job. Everbone Saga, sir, what are your thoughts on this side of the matter as well? Do you think that Xbox gamers have a right to be feeling the way they are? I know that's a low-hanging fruit question for you, because I know you and I have been having this conversation right now. But I guess my what I'm trying to tease out is there a way this could have been doled out, or the way that the perception of the consumers could have been cultivated in a better way than it is now? Like, or was this just never? It was just never going to work. They were doomed from day one. What are your thoughts, sir?
I mean, as I say, it is always important to make a distinction between the needs of the business and the needs of the individual gamer, right? And those things may not always align. So what I see some people touting as a victory for the big billion or $1 trillion corporation, you know, sometimes we can confuse ourselves into thinking that's a victory for us. But just to what we're talking about here with Peter Moore, Peter Moore says the console war was healthy for the industry. Yes, absolutely. It was healthy, yes. but things that have changed, and so it's also you know, you can like, when we talk about the console war, do we need to make a distinction between the console war and exclusives and their value for a brand, or are those things synonymous? Right.
I kind of feel like the console, the reason why those conversations happen one after the other is because those exclusives are the evidence that they're used against or for the case, right? And that's why they always tend to kind of be a synonymous conversation, right? Like mine versus yours because mine has this and yours doesn't, or vice versa, that kind of thing. Am I wrong in that?
And I mean, no, you're not. And I mean, this is so okay. Because there's a lot of different ways to go about this, but I think at the end of the day is what we should be looking at, or is consumer sentiment. And if your consumer is not happy with what you're offering, then maybe you should offer them something to be happy with. But let me just put my stance on it, which is I believe that it is a net positive for different companies to compete directly with each other for our dollars. Meaning, right, if Nintendo is in one fiefdom and Sony is in another fiefdom and Microsoft is in another fiefdom, right? Then if they're not directly competing with each other, they can do kind of whatever they want. So what does that mean? Sony can charge you $700 for a pro console. Nintendo can give you old hardware because they don't have. There's no one competing with them directly on price. There's no one directly competing with them on content. We're all competing for time, yes, right? But I think the consumer wins when these guys are going back and forth, and when they separate. If Xbox only cares about sort of more, and maybe subscription services, then and that's it. What is the incentive to offer you better hardware at a competitive price, right? Because we're all hearing it now that they don't even want to subsidize hardware anymore, right? So as we move to this place where they've decided, and I get it, the market is mature, but if we move to this place, I think we lose something. Now, what we gain, maybe it'll be better, right? But I've never heard anywhere where, like, when you ask Gordon Gekko how much is enough, he's going to tell you more. And that is what I feel like when I hear more gamers, more places, shouldn't it be? And I'm not saying they're not focused on quality. Let's be very clear. I think they're going to be the publisher of the year this year, right? But it's just in terms of your messaging, just saying more people. I don't think that's a winning. That's a winning message for investors. It's not a winning message for me as a consumer. Just saying more. You should say quality. You should say, unique experience. You want to deliver the most unique experiences, right? Like that's what I want to hear from you. Not just we need to get to more people, because that's a business need. So
yeah, it's a little hollow. It's just numbers.
Yeah. So this is the thing. Now the other thing is, if we're gonna look at the business lens of it, I don't think it's a great thing that the consumer is kind of held. Like, you were promised exclusives. That's fine. The business needs change. They go back on it, and now they got to hold it over your head. Well, if you don't let us make more and serve 3 billion people, then you may never get this again. It's like they're holding a gun to your head to, like, go back on their promises. But anyway, I do think it makes sense for what they're doing, right? And people say, how does this make sense for them? And the other two platform holders aren't doing this, because the other two platform holders don't have to do this, right? Yeah. So people say, right, that Xbox is acting like the industry has changed. The thing is, the industry has changed, but that change is going to affect each platform holder differently. If you are the number one platform holder, how it affects you is going to be different than how it affects the third place platform holder, right? So I always say this, you can see that Sony is reacting to the shift in the market. aside from the fact that they canceled 11 live service games where they try to pivot to that direction, right? And now you're only getting
games
one
released.
Right. Right. And you're only getting one of their traditional style games a year now. But they're now transitioning slowly but surely over to PC, whether it's a staggered release, sometimes day and date. They're figuring that out, right? They're laying people off also. Like, that's how the market shift has affected them. But Microsoft has already pivoted to PC. So they're not going to find the users that they're looking for over on PC. And Microsoft is the only one of the three major platform holders that bought 2 third-party publishers, right? So this, I guess, in hindsight, the writing is on the wall that they end up here, right? But that doesn't mean that the industry has not shifted. It does mean that different companies are going to do different things. And I keep coming back to some of the stats that Matt Pizzicatella brought up, where he said only 12% of gamers will buy a game a month. Only 4% will, which is what I think is like us in the chat here, that buys multiple games a month. 4%. Jeez. Right? 30% of gamers will, and he's talking about North America. I don't know what the worldwide market is like. 30% of gamers will not even buy a game this year. They're just going to play the black hole games, right?
So you mean like the free to plays? Like
yeah, exactly, exactly. So you have a large audience of the market that is buying 1 to 2 games a year. And you have more games being released than ever. Last year, I think there was something like 19,000 games released on Steam. I don't know what it was on PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo, right? You're fighting against TikTok, right? So the market, whether you like it or not, whether you're a traditionalist or not, the market has changed, right? True. So we're gonna see shifts from everybody, and I think Xbox is just doing what they have to do, but that doesn't mean I have to like it, and it's not a win for me if they're making more money, right? It's a win for me if they deliver on their promises.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
that's well
they
said.
may have to do it, but I don't care what you got to do. I know you promised me exclusives. And you're going back on that, but that doesn't matter to me anymore, because that's why I switched to the waters of Lake Minnetonka. That is the PC waters of Lake Minnetonka. So
Face 23 BKNY with a $20 super chat. Thank you, brother, for your support. He says you don't care, but console. Only Xbox gamers care that there are games where games go everywhere, but not the other way. So it's kind of unfair for Xbox console gamers. So what's the incentive to get an Xbox when their games that skip it? That is a good point that comes up that we should discuss, right?
Yeah,
it's cool that it's cool to say to your point, Dante, you're gaming, you're enjoying your games, no problems, it's all good. But what do you say to those who say, look, I bought this thing to get these games, for the past 40 years or so, right? For our lifetime, this has been the paradigm. They have cultivated this kind of back and forth. Right? It's been, as the great Peter Moore said, it's healthy for business. It was, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the paradigm has changed, and we understand that the paradigm has changed, and we don't want to rehash all of that, but just because the landscape has changed does not mean that the 40 years of programming you did to the recess kids who are now adults gets undone because overnight you've changed, right? What do you say to those who say, come on, man, this is how it's always been, y'all are leaving us high and dry or whatever?
I get the sentiment. I understand the kind of the emotional reaction to it, but I'm just kind of being realistic at this point, because I ask myself this question: what does it impact me if I'm still within the Xbox ecosystem and I get to play those games? What am I losing out if a game made for by an Xbox publisher, by one of the Xbox studios, goes and is available on PlayStation.
Well, but I guess the point the point of the matter there is the fear is because because the lanes have always been exclusives bring in consumers, and now one does not have that. What is the incentive of continuing to make that hardware, which means the few fans that are there are in fear of, say, losing the ecosystem because the juice might not be worth the squeeze for the vendor anymore because you put your games elsewhere. Why would others buy your hardware? What do you think?
So that is the one part that I would say I have a concern too as well, right? Which is like I prefer playing on the Xbox, and I would hope that they don't leave the console space with like anytime soon. So I can understand that concern, and that to me is valid. But I mean, we have to be kind of realistic here, right? Like they've made the last couple iterations of the Xbox has been, pretty much one of the leading versions of hardware that's been out there, right? With the One X and then the Series X, right? And even with those narratives, the games being able to, perform well, sure, if you want to nitpick and do stuff like between that and PS5, you can do that, but that doesn't matter. The average person isn't going to notice that stuff. It still wasn't enough to entice people to sit there and say, oh, I'm also going to buy an Xbox, right? They were still getting beat 2-3 to 1 in sales. So at what point, because that's where they lose most of their money, which is on hardware, right? So at what point do they sit there and say, in order to keep the business viable, we need to sell more software, and we're losing, and the hardware, we're not enticing that person to say, I'm also going to pick, like, even with putting a Series S at a very reasonable price for someone who's like, I primarily play on PlayStation, but maybe I get a Series S to play some Xbox exclusives, and it's a cheap $299. That still wasn't enough for them to stem that bleeding, to not lose 2 to 3 to 1, right? In terms of PlayStation sales for console. So I'm just wondering, like, what is it that we are expecting if you're still not getting people to say, I'm going to go ahead and like in the old days, I owned PlayStation and Xbox usually consistently, right? This is the first year that I haven't had a PlayStation alone for the Xbox. A lot of gamers probably did that, right? They had both. Nowadays, people are making a decision. I'm buying one or the other. So if you're not getting that hardcore base that is more entrenched now in terms of their loyalty towards PlayStation to say, I am going to buy an Xbox, what do you expect them to do if you want Xbox to remain? So that's my concern. I want Xbox to still remain. And if, how do we get there?
I want to add a little bit of context when we say, first of all, shout out to Ramon Terrell, the great actor.
Yes, sir, the great Ramon Terrell. That's right.
And Arthur. Thank you for being in the chat, good sir. But I did a little piece of context about they had a $299 box and they still weren't able to move units. I really think, and I could be wrong here, but I really think we have to look at why they weren't able to move units, because if we look at 2021, they were selling on par and sometimes outselling the PlayStation should stock when they had the stock levels to do so, right? And I know it was pandemic, but they were kind of selling neck and neck, and they were the flywheel of content was being delivered in 2021 and into 2022, but that sort of stopped and they didn't live up to their end of the deal. 2022, and they said it. This is not me assuming this. This came out in the ABK trial that 2022 was a disaster because Starfield and Redfall got delayed. They had no backups, and they were in the news having headlines and articles run every other day with them saying we suck at this, right? And that killed the momentum that they had. So one could argue that they were selling comparably to PlayStation when they were delivering comparable content. And when they lost that momentum in 2022, it had basically been, they started to get it back in 2023. And I think 2024 was better, and 2025 I think is going to be great. But they lost so much ground with what they did in 2022 and right.
That seems to be like a continuing theme though, right? Like in terms of they've been trying to catch up on ground that they've lost ever since the Xbox One gen, right? And it seems like now it feels like maybe they're in a place of cadence where they can get games coming out like every quarter that will, be like, hey, we got, stuff to entice people to come to the Xbox ecosystem. But like, I think for the market that they're trying to get, because they're not winning over some new people who have not purchased either an Xbox or a PlayStation, right? You're not bringing in some new people. Maybe maybe PCs. That's why there's such a focus on PC. That's your one chance to expand, right? Get people to buy some Xbox games for PC. But that console market, I think, is kind of tapped, right? So I'm like, what are you doing to entice the PlayStation entrenched player to say, I'm okay with buying an Xbox?
Well, here's the other problem with that, though, right? And I don't think a lot of people take this into their consideration, right? Even with the ABK purchase, even the most aggressive analysts, these are the people that Sony hired and the FTC hired, thought there would be like something like a 5% share shift of people that would go over and buy an Xbox if they made Call of Duty exclusive, right? So people are entrenched into these ecosystems, and exclusives could get a PlayStation gamer to go and consider an Xbox. But the part that I think a lot of people leave out is, even if that happened, 9 times out of 10, they would be considering an Xbox as a secondary console, which means they would only buy the exclusive titles there, and all the third-party stuff, which is where you're going to make the money, they will still be they'll still be playing on PlayStation. So you have to ask yourself, if you're them in this mature market, the console market is not dead, it is mature, right? But if it is mature, then you have to start finding new ways to extract revenue from a non-growing or flat base, right? And I don't know for Microsoft, the juice is worth the squeeze. And again, that is me putting on the business hat and separating my personal feelings around this, which I don't like.
And that's the fear that people have brought about. And every time I say, similar to your sentiment, Dante, that hey, as long as they're providing me the value that I perceive, I'm good. It's all good. All of that, blah blah blah. The sentiment that I get returned to me is, sure, that's the way it is today, but if you have X amount of games on the console or a library that you want to keep, as of today, they've shown you nothing that tells you that'll be kept even if that console no longer exists. And we all know that if you take exclusivity out of the console market, all of a sudden now the console is less desired, because the reason to buy a console historically has been exclusives. So Dante, I'll throw this one to you. And this came about with a conversation that Phil Spencer had in an interview some weeks ago, which I'm sure you remember, where he was talking about how, when this similar question was posed to him, he was talking about how he's envisioning a world where the console stands on its own, right? That it comes with features and capabilities that make you want to buy it because it is cool or it is valuable to you, whether it plays everything or everybody else can play everything else on it or not, should not be the deciding factor. Kind of like a TV, right? You're buying a Samsung TV. Everybody else can watch the same stuff you watch, but this TV has these features. Yeah. Do you think that world is a pipe dream, or can that even exist?
Well, I think they got to make it exist, to be quite honest. Like, so the feeling that most of us have right now is that they're slowly kind of just becoming a third-party publisher, right? That's the concern that Xbox fans have. And I think they have to be smart enough to understand
the perception in the consumer base. Yes,
right.
That is the perception. Yeah.
And I think they have to be smart enough to also understand that there is an entrenched Xbox base that has thousands of dollars tied into their digital library, right? Because I know I do, between games and movies that I've purchased through the Xbox and movies app, right? So it's like, I want access to that, easy access on my TV. I don't want to have to hook up my PC to do that, right? So I believe they have to be mindful that base still exists. So if you're saying to yourself that, yep, these games will be available everywhere between Xbox, PC, and eventually PlayStation, but yet we still have to have like this entryway for our diehard base who's heavily invested with money that they spent on their digital libraries to be able to access these things. You got to make some type of hardware, and you also got to make sure that your hardware is it's a differentiator, right? Because that's, to me, I think I would rather argue there. I would rather argue not about like, oh, who made the game and that's determines if it's trash or not. More so like, yeah, we can talk about games based upon how they perform and narrative and story and all that good stuff. But when you're talking about why you prefer Xbox or PlayStation in terms of the console, it's because this console does this and the other one does not, right? That to me is a worthwhile argument if you're someone who enjoys
hardware differentiation. Yes, I agree.
Show me that value. And I think if they focus on that, that could be something to bring people to be like, hey, all right, I haven't played Xbox since maybe Xbox 360. Maybe I'll get this new one because this new Xbox has these cool bells and whistles on top of performance, etc. So I'm hoping that's what they're really considering, because I think that's where you got to launch that war to make up any type of, you got to show some fight in the hardware space as long as you're going to stay in hardware. And differentiators is going to be the only thing I think that can win in consumers to say, all right, maybe you have something I'm willing to take a look at there. So whether they make good on that promise or that vision, that's we'll see. Hopefully, if the 2026 rumor is correct, we'll see if that comes to fruition. But that's what I'm hoping as we start to move into this area where, yes, maybe games are going to be between both the major platforms, between PlayStation and Xbox.
I think something that we, in our what I like to call the 4%, according to Matt Piscatella, what we don't take into consideration is that there are a lot of people who, when they think of gaming, they think of Fortnite, they think of Warzone, they think of Roblox, right?
Yeah.
And these things are not. I always give my boss at work, who I just gifted a year of Game Pass or whatever. This was strategic. I wanted him playing more games so he wouldn't notice that I was playing more games. But anyway,
I hope your boss is not on your gamer tag. Right? That's the number one mistake you make.
Yeah. No. I mean, but it was time for him to buy a console, and he wanted to play Minecraft with his daughter and Fortnite with his son and Call of Duty for himself. He always had an Xbox, so that's what he bought. He doesn't know anything about where Forza Horizon 5 is going to get released on, or the fact that Indiana Jones is only a timed exclusive, right? And what we know from data is that there are more gamers like that than there are gamers like us that are buying multiple games and paying attention to all these things.
Exactly. Yeah, we're definitely the more diehard and entrenched in terms of understanding what's what. The casual just doesn't care about this or has no clue about it.
And I'll posit something else. Xbox already sold us consoles. Everybody that's mad at this right now, they already sold you an Xbox, right? And I don't know anyone that has canceled their Game Pass subscription. You're on mute, Kay.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. By the way, when they sold you that Xbox, they lost $100.
Right.
When you bought it, they lost $100. Every single one.
The thing is, I'm willing to wager that most of us in here that swear up and down that there's no reason to buy that hardware anymore. I'm talking about the Xbox fans, not the PlayStation fans who never would have bought it anyway. But these Xbox guys who swear like that's it, there's no reason for them to make hardware. As soon as they see that handheld, they're gonna fold. You're gonna fold. So what that means is they sold you hardware and you never canceled your Game Pass. And when it's time to buy hardware again, you'll probably buy it along with the people who don't know about this stuff. This is their bet anyway. And they'll be right or wrong, but it'll be within some margin of error. And so at the end of the day, when they release hardware again, people are still going to buy it. Maybe not in 80 or 75 million numbers, but enough such that third-party developers will still want to support that platform.
Can I tell you about my pipe dream in terms of whatever happens with the next, generation of hardware? So like I want them to go for broke in terms of making something that will make me say it doesn't matter to me if I have a high power PC or not, and I'm still willing to play it on console. And if they're able to do that, I don't care even if they don't subsidize it. And if they basically say, hey, we're gonna put it at cost, because I think PlayStation's about to do that. I think PlayStation is basically trying to reset the market price for where they can start off with their entry level console. I think that PS5, I think the next PlayStation is going to be upwards of $700+, and that they're going to try to reset the market for the entry level costs. So if Xbox is saying, all right, we're going to put our games between Xbox, PlayStation, etc., if we're going to make hardware, because we still need to have that diehard base who wants to consume Game Pass, because PlayStation is never going to allow Game Pass on their service, right? They're never going to do that. So you still want to make sure you keep Game Pass subscribers happy. So you got to make some type of some hardware, because everyone's not going to go get a PC. So if your next console, and if you've been getting killed in terms of that price, in terms of subsidizing it, put it closer to price, right? Where if PlayStation puts theirs at a $799 price, $800 whatever, you do the same thing. And I still think that the like us, the 4% are still going to do it. I think we're still going to purchase it, especially if it delivers on features. So, I mean, we'll see, but that's what I believe. I think the market reset is going to happen. And I think PlayStation was testing that with the PS5 Pro.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So you think once they do that, and once that becomes the norm, then
Microsoft will have no choice.
Changes.
Right? Okay. I mean, maybe they'll have another unit still that's like kind of somewhat like the S for that person who's like, I play Fortnite, I play Warzone, etc. Maybe they'll have that kind of entry level. But I think like their main competitor, same way to like the Series X and the PlayStation 5 were, I think that will be same thing price. If PlayStation's is at $799 or whatever that price is, Xbox will have no choice but to do the same thing and not basically subsidize too hard to basically lose out on hardware.
I just think their best bet is really to focus more on the quality of the experience in their ecosystem. And I do think that if they do what Kay and I have been talking about for what seems like years now, which is get away from the whole idea of being a bespoke hardware manufacturer and embrace your roots as an OS maker, like do something to Windows that will put it on par with Steam OS or Bazite, and hyper focus on that experience to where you have your stuff from the Xbox store, but you have hooks into other stores or other launchers or however you do it. And we can talk about the different ways that, because I know there's a lot of naysayers there, or people that don't understand how it would work, even though they know that on the Steam Deck you can run games from other launchers and add them to your library, even though we know that the ROG Ally already aggregates several stores worth of content in one UI. So these things are being done right now, but Microsoft can do it in a more streamlined way. I think that is their future, and I think that is a compelling offering that differentiates you from the competition. If you can give people the ease of use that they expect under the TV and in a handheld from a Steam Deck or a Switch, and you can find an easy way to sort of coalesce games from Epic, Steam, and whoever else, that to me is more compelling than whether I can get exclusives on a box.
So you're okay with that? So what you're saying to me is they give you those, they check those off your list, continuity, game progression, seamless, everything you buy one place just follows it wherever you go. You think they give you that, and you and a lot of consumers, maybe I'm wrong, you tell me if I'm wrong, you think consumers would go, you know what, exclusivity was a paradigm that has now shifted. We're cool now because they still offer us something we want. You think that'd be enough?
I think it's a differentiator, and you need a differentiator.
Sure.
Right.
Do you think it's enough?
I think it'll be enough for a lot of people. And it's gonna depend on how much they focus on it, right? How are they really gonna focus on delivering that smooth experience, right? How are they gonna tie these things together in a way that doesn't make it cumbersome for a casual user, right? Like that is going to be on them. But people keep asking, why would anyone buy their box? And again, I see it in the chat. Steam is doing this today, but even their stuff is still like there are some compatibility issues in terms of if you want to play a multiplayer game or if you want Game Pass stuff or whatever. And I see people in the chat saying Game Pass is a differentiator. It is. I don't think it's enough, because how does that done them so far? Right? It's enough for about
40 million people.
Yeah, sure. But that's not right. That's not
nothing to sneeze at, man.
No, it's not anything to sneeze at, but it's been there for a while.
Higher at this point.
Right,
true,
right.
True.
So that in itself tells you that that's not enough of a differentiator. But I'm saying, from a hardware perspective, I think for a lot of people, you can say, this is a box where you can get whatever you can get stuff from whatever store you want. I think that's a strong selling point. And to me, the OS is really the answer, because the selling point for me is if I could have that same experience, but on whatever hardware I wanted.
Lucius is saying we're still dodging the biggest quote from the interview. Sir, put the biggest quote, in your opinion.
Yes. No, wait a minute. We're not dodging it, Lucius. You weren't listening. We said the console war was past tense.
See, but here's the thing. I don't think he thinks that's the biggest quote. So I need to hear what he.
What is the biggest quote? What is the biggest quote?
Because we were talking about that when he said this, and he still says this now, which tells me to him that was not the biggest quote. There you go. See, he says nope, that was not the biggest quote. So
all right,
let him tell us.
Remind us of what the biggest quote is.
All right. Say the quote.
See, hold on. There. See, that's not the biggest quote. So again,
there's too much cloak and dagger going on right now. What's the biggest quote?
Stop the cloak and dagger. Tell us.
Oh, wait a minute. Is it the thing that he already said on Iron Lords, which is if they wish they could stop making hardware? Is that it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he said that this is not new.
Yeah, that's always
been this a while ago.
That's the reason why they've been wanting to get out of the Xbox business forever, because they subsidize the hardware and they lose money on it.
Yeah,
that's always been the case. That's not new.
And let me wait a minute. If PlayStation could find a way to still make $30 billion a year and not have to spend $27 billion making that hardware, you don't think they would do that?
But this is why. So this statement being thought of as salacious and like a thing is fundamentally the reason why I always feel like we need to explain what's going on. And maybe some people think that we're agreeing or it's a tacit endorsement or whatever. No, we're just explaining. But the reason why I think this is a duh is because obviously, if you know that part of business is that they're selling you that hardware at a loss in order to facilitate you buying their software, that means every time they look at the dollars and cents, they see a negative on the console line. Because even if they're as successful as all hell, their success is predicated on the software, but there's still a hole in the hardware side, because there's always going to be a hole in the hardware side. It's a loss leader, right? So with that being the case, wouldn't you think that it is their life's mission to continue the business going and lose that loss leader to at least be zero rather than minus? That's just duh in my humble opinion, right? Like, it's just always been that consoles were a necessary evil. We've said this. They were a means to an end, the end being selling you software. Now, all of a sudden, these businesses who don't want it to cost them money to sell you something are seeing a viable way to sell you something without it costing them money to sell you something. Obviously, they will try and move towards that.
And I think Game Logic points this out. I don't have member privileges, so you got to highlight it. Just check out Game Logic's last comment. He says, challenge, if it is not up to the $1 trillion company to stop making hardware, then who is it up to? Right? Microsoft is up to Microsoft, right? They're the ones making the hardware.
Yeah.
We also got to put that in perspective too. Like, they're a $1 trillion company, but like each division has their own budget, right? For the most part, they're enterprise, right? Their concern is servers and basically selling Windows to businesses, right? So like
Microsoft this is the longest they've gone out of their comfort zone.
They don't have access to the full $1 trillion of their market cap, but
they've been making hardware for 25 years. I think it's up to them.
JD Gamer in the super chat with a super chat of $5. Thank you, JD Gamer. He says the industry is different in that it is now a mature market and no longer a rapid growing market. So in that paradigm, Xbox has decided to change the way to change its ways.
That's facts.
It is what it is.
That's the reality of the situation.
Yes,
spot on.
I do want to. Just this is for the chat because we do have some smart people in there, right? This is something that has always not bothered me. I don't know what the right word is, but a lot of people say, well, you say it's mature, you say it's declining, but they're making more money than ever. How much of they are making more money than ever, but how much of that is inflationary? And how much of that is just sort of extracting more from the same people? Because if you're not growing the number of people that are playing, that are investing in the ecosystem, then you're not growing, right?
That's why they always
you
talk
can make more money all day, but
our users, right?
Yeah.
They always bring up users. They never really talk too much about like how many units sold, etc. They're like, this particular quarter we had more people playing Xbox than we've ever had, yada yada.
Because they want to focus on that endpoint, that endpoint from that endpoint mindset, right? Everyone's coming in, right? You came in through your phone on Android. I came in through my phone on iPhone. Somebody else came in through their Xbox. Somebody else came in through a PC, but we're all still playing Minecraft. They're all eyeballs. So why count only the Xbox as the eyeball when you can count the guy who's playing on Android, iPhone, PC, all of them? They're the TV that has the app that has a controller connected. All of them are eyeballs to their ecosystem. That's how they're trying to. At least that's the perception of it, right?
Here's another thing I think it's a challenge for them. I think they have concerns about like the younger generation in terms of console adoption, right? Because we're like the old entrenched. We've grown up with every major console for the most part.
We are the horseshoe makers, sir. We are the horseshoe makers.
But are the younger generation? I don't know if they're they're playing on mobile, they're playing on tablet, they're playing on PC or whatnot, and I don't know if they're as entrenched to be like, I need to have a PlayStation, I need to have an Xbox, etc. And so like part of that focus too has to be on like where are they at if they are playing games. And how do we get our product, get that software to them if they're not really buying hardware?
I think the only vendor who has successfully been able to inoculate themselves for next gen and the future and all of that is Nintendo. Because they consistently keep going, you know what? We are here for this specific subset of the audience. If you fall out of that subset, okay, your children will be there. Your children's children will be there. At some point, you will always have a need for this kind of style, this kind of game. And they're always right? So while everybody else is pivoting and moving on, they are continuing to stay tried and true, and they're continuing to reap.
So Game Logic, I think he's answering me when he says, but the value focus needs to be on ARPU, which is average revenue per user, and not MAU. 500 million monthly active users not spending any money doesn't really do anything.
Facts.
Right?
Yeah,
sure. So that's a very good point. So and then Ramon Terrell says Wukong sold consoles. There are many regions. that are infantile for the console market. But so aren't those regions though like heavily they're growing, but they're growing on PC, and that's part of the reason that you're seeing Sony's pivot to PC is to catch those people in those regions like China where consoles are not as much of a thing as they are in those tried and true regions. Right, because at the end of the day,
on PC to be exact, I think a couple million was on PlayStation.
Yeah, I think I saw some report that said like 20% was on PlayStation or something like that. I don't know, but it's it's weird to see where it charted, but I guess a lot of it was sales in China. But I do think, as I understand it, the way the platform holders are trying to get those users from other regions are going to be through PC. Now, the other thing though, I know the Switch 2 is going to do great. I just don't know that it's guaranteed to do great.
Oh, come on.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Like, how much did the Wii sell versus the Wii U?
I know your concerns. I know what you're saying.
Right. I see the face you're doing, but this is.
I don't subscribe to yours. Go ahead, keep going.
No. I'm not. See, this is the thing. I'm only asking a question. I have no doubt, right?
Sure.
But that mark, like, they're gonna. This is basically a continuation of the Switch, right? Mm-hmm. And so, how many people are going to buy this and make a strong differentiation between this and the Switch HD versus the Switch Lite? And is it just another SKU, or is it gonna do another 150 million?
They are changing the way they are marketing. Like, and I know what you're talking about. I understand, because from a technical perspective, absolutely, it looks like it is Switch 1.5, right? Switch, that's what it is, right? And we were very cognizant about the, hey, is this what's going to lead to them having that same problem they had with the Wii U? But the difference with the Wii U versus the Switch, which it looks like they've already started making that conversation very clear now, is they are talking in next gen terms. This is the next gen Switch. This is next gen hardware. Every time they talk about it, it's like, look, next gen, right?
Wait a minute. Sorry, I apologize.
Because they don't want it to. Go ahead.
I apologize. Ramon Terrell, I see you're saying that there's an issue with chats. What channel are you watching this from? Because I think that we're broadcasting on multiple channels. So if you're watching it like on my channel, it may be different than like we see all of it, but the chat may not see it. Most people are on K Asante's channel, so maybe if you can't see some things, it'll be because you may be watching it from a different. Anyway, that's why. Not
bro. Good job. Yeah, I like that. That's good.
But yeah, go to K Asante's channel. You'll see everything.
Yep. We broadcasted in multiple locations. So yes, thank you everyone. But yes, so I do by and large agree that we are in a paradigm shift. But the people are still not necessarily happiest about it, and I'm okay with them coming here to air their frustrations. We are here to put an arm around you and let you know it's okay. But yes, these things are happening. Face 23 BKMY with a $20 super chat. He says, I considered a Xbox for Indiana Jones because I like games like Uncharted, but they told me that at the summer showcase that from Jeff that it was coming on PS5, so I decided to wait. This seems to possibly be the perception that every Xbox gamer fears, that conversation of, hey, no Xbox, no problem, will stop people from actually wanting to jump into the ecosystem, right?
So I think
what is the reality in that though? I would love to know that. Like, are there numbers behind that show that, hey, it is true, or maybe it's overblown based on what we see in our small space?
I think the answer is going to be different depending on the different gamer. If he saw, if Face 23 considered picking up an Xbox for Indiana Jones, was he going to stop buying games on PlayStation for that? Because then really he would have picked it up, he would have played one game, and he would have and he would have went back to PlayStation, but he also would have cost Microsoft, wait a second, $100. He would have cost Microsoft $100. So they actually would have lost money on that transaction. Yes. If that's all that happened.
If that's all,
now if he came over and signed up for Game Pass and then started playing the other stuff, but what is the percentage?
Once the door is open,
they're going to do that.
Their idea is that once the door is open, now the barrier to letting you play the next thing. Hey, Avowed is out. Hey, this other thing is out. Now your barrier as a consumer, as Face 23 BKNY would say, now his barrier of entry is even smaller. Now you might play this, might even play that. Right, the fact that you got in the console and brought it home now means that there's a bigger chance that $100 deficit becomes positive. Right, that's what I think people are trying to push. You know, whether that is the case, whether that is actually it bears out in the numbers, we won't know because I don't think they'll ever share them. Right, Game Logic, the great Game Logic, $20 super chat. He says the argument that is not helping you here is the Xbox voices that are claiming that the hardware is incidental and doesn't matter. It's a deflection, and when it's from influencers in the veil of it causes worry. I understand, and honestly, I've come to understand that even more as we game, because I've always been just a gamer that just games wherever games are. But I've come to understand that there's a reason why people have like console logos tattooed, right? Like people like while and I think Everborn Saga correctly pointed this out. While right now the focus is they are trying, specifically Xbox is trying to pivot to make the focus on the IP or the genre or specifically IP, right? Historically, for the 40 years that I've been around and watching this stuff, it's been on the ecosystem that facilitates those IPs. Right. And now it's like they're changing on a dime and saying, no, it's Minecraft that's important, not where it's being played. Whereas for a long time, they agreed and they facilitated the idea that it was the fundamental ecosystem that mattered to your enjoyment of it. Right. So I do see that it's folly to be flippant with those who go, come on now, because this is how it's been for a long time. Now, I don't feel that way, but I've come to understand that, the ground was seeded by them, and not specifically Xbox, but by the gaming industry in general for a long time. And now that pivot, whether Microsoft is righteous to do it or not, it's not fair, or people are seeing that it is not fair. Yeah. So JD Gamer, $5 super chat. He says Xbox has lost the console war, but it's winning in gaming, and PlayStation understands this, even if the fanboys don't as evidenced by Insomniac leak. Xbox wins, which I think is an interesting point to make, because that's another part of that perception versus reality. What is the perception? The perception is that, by them putting their consoles everywhere, even by the Xbox faithful, they are losing something. They are admitting defeat. They are, all those that energy of they're no longer wanting to compete, that kind of stuff. Whereas I think the reality may be a little different. Right? I'm not 100% on it. And Dante, please correct me if I'm wrong if you think, but I feel like the reality, the tube of toothpaste is out. It's on the floor. They see all the money, right? They see how that can change their business model in a dynamic way, and now that becomes their focus for success, even if we don't see it that way. Am I wrong in that?
No, I don't think so. Like every quarter where we've seen Microsoft kind of release their financials, if we see any type of revenue numbers that are up and higher, it's from like their services for the most part, right? So that's basically, selling games, movies, etc. That's the part where it's their bread and butter. And I know where they would prefer to make their money. That's probably what all of these companies would prefer to make their money if they could. The hardware, like you say, I hear what he's saying. Where saying incidental seems like it's a slap in the face to the console player, and I'm not someone who subscribes to that. I believe the console player is just as important as the PC player, right? We're an entry point. We've been loyal. We've been there since day one. So I think they do need to make sure that they reiterate to us that, like, hey, we hear you, we see your concerns, and that you're important, right? We understand you're an important part of our player base.
I feel like that might.
I think they got a course correct. Yeah, they need to. If anything, maybe with the upcoming showcase between this year and next year, I think that should be probably their focus, where they basically they need to assuage these concerns of that hardcore console player who's always bought an Xbox. That, like, hey, you guys aren't second class citizens, right? So I do understand people's frustration with that. And if you are going to stay in the hardware market, you need to not just be kind of like half in or, dangling with your foot, right? Yep. You basically need to be like, hey, we want to make sure you have a reason to basically still be on Xbox, playing on console if you haven't bought a PC already. So I think they can definitely do better there. I think what they've been trying to do, there's lots of aspects to this, right? On one side, I believe that there is a part of Xbox or Microsoft that has said, hey, we have invested a lot of money in you guys to purchase some of these publishers, right? And so we want to see some return on investment, and selling these things just to your 30 some odd million users isn't going to get that job done. That doesn't justify our $90 price tag that we've shelled out over the last few years. So I think that's that pressure that we've seen some of the pivot in terms of how these games are going to these different places, which people are concerned with who are diehard Xbox fans and wanted exclusivity. So yes, services is the thing that is going to continue to make the money selling software, but they also need to make sure that they kind of redirect and at least let the people who are purchasing hardware feel as if they're important. And I think that is I'm hoping that they're listening to the concerns, because I think that's been echoed now for at least the last couple of years, right? Since we've been hearing about these things about games going to other places. And I'm hoping that, like, Phil and company, when they start to get closer to announcing their next gen hardware, that they really try to nail it home, like, hey, those of you who are still here and those who are interested in it, this is what we're doing, right? And we feel really, really good about this particular next generation, between if it's, the handheld and whatever the main console is going to be. But they gotta really kind of bring that thing home to kind of get people who are very much in this kind of like, and I don't know what Xbox is doing. You gotta bring them around and kind of steady that ship. So I'm hoping that they do that.
And I completely agree with you, sir. Like, while I am on that side of for me, it's not a big deal and all of that, I am on that side. I don't particularly think it raises my ire or anything. I do agree, and this is the journey I've been on, with talking to the folks we talk to, the Discord and all of this. I do agree that if you're going to cultivate this kind of audience, if you're going to foster this kind of back and forth competition, as you guys all have for as long as you have, when the time comes for the pivot, when the time comes for the change, it's holding your diehard, your evangelist by the hand and explaining to them why it needs to move, and working with them to get them to understand that it's time to move, and then taking them with you, rather than being as, it feels a little flippant. But go ahead.
I wanna.
And then, by the way,
we got to get out of here.
Final super chats, and we got 5 minutes. We got final super chats, and we'll get out of here. And we'll be on.
Shout out to John Wolf.
Yes, sir.
Co-host of Gamers Playground.
That's right. He made that great
but
point.
He said something in the Discord that I thought was kind of sums up a lot of this. Mm-hmm. What we keep hearing is how, this pivot is good for Xbox. It's good for Microsoft. But what you're not hearing is how it's good for you, the gamer. Sure. And you could say that, well, I get games, but they already promised you games. You are already supposed to get games. So it's not that you can't really say to give you the thing that you were already supposed to get before we shifted is how this is better for you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. You gotta, there's a carrot and there's a stick, right?
Yeah.
So this multi-platform stuff is the stick, but where is the carrot to get them to go along?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree.
I think that's righteous smoke. Absolutely, I agree. That is righteous smoke. That they, and again, it always comes back to that messaging. I think it is righteous, right? There could have been a way to have this conversation with your public and not make them feel frustrated or alienated by the way you're talking to them. You know, they ask why, and you go, "Huh?" Like, you know, I do agree. Yeah.
Player says the carrot is Game Pass, but I already had Game Pass, and what we're talking about is games. Like, we're getting games now that you showed me in 2020. So I'm just asking you to deliver on what you promised, unless you're going to show me some benefit. But you know,
so BKNY rounds out his generosity with a couple of super chats. First off, he has the $2 super chat where he says 5 million Wukong sales was on PS5. Informational. And then he finishes that off with another $2 super chat, and he says Xbox is winning as a publisher, not as a platform. I think they're redefining that whole platform thing, and will they be able to be successful at it? Time will tell. Right now, it's looking spooky. We'll see, you know. But there's a world where a year and a half from now we come back here and your library is traversing wherever you go with you, and the game saves are carrying over, and they sorted out this whole dual entitlement thing. You know, the Xbox Game Pass app is looking good. Even Evermore Saga's not complaining. Difficult proposition, I know, but maybe that world happens, and then we're having a different conversation about them having a lackluster platform, because then that is success in my eyes anyway. BT Maverick 707 with $10 super chat. He says Xbox has to market Game Pass and COD like like a blunt effing hammer, and watch the mark and the watermark that SHIT on IGN, so they can't scrub it off. Beat Game Pass into everyone's heads until even non-gamers know what it is. I kind of sort of agree with the man. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there are still corners and pockets of gaming rather than the general public, but gaming that still don't fully understand the benefits of Game Pass. So yeah. King Webb, $2 super chat. He says the mobile store is going global and will be the key. I hope so. They've spoken at length about it. You know, we saw Sarah.
How
Sarah
does
Bond
Google and Apple have anything to say about it?
Right? Yeah. Right. And then Sarah Bond herself became a ghost. We haven't seen from her. We haven't seen or heard from her since. So no store and no Sarah Bond. It's looking spooky. We shall see. JD Gamer, $5 super chat. He says Xbox wins as a platform, not just a publisher, because they will be both the biggest publisher and a platform that includes Game Pass, and that is a win.
All right.
Both.
How about this? Right. There was a while ago where our good buddy, and I mean that facetiously, Tim Stewart said, we're going to put games in more places, but we want games to be first best
or best in Game Pass. Yes.
Why is even that too much to ask?
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Like,
question aside,
this is what I mean. Like, the bare minimum. If you're gonna do this, which again, it is fine if you do this, but how about sticking to your promise of being first and or best?
Pixelbit G, $5 super chat. Had they at least provided exclusive for 1 to 2 years and then seen it fail to drive players, I think people would have understood the shift better. He wanted them to walk before they ran, and now they just fly in for whatever.
Yeah, they should have started this at the beginning of next year.
Which, you know, I cannot disagree with that sentiment.
I think they couldn't. I think they didn't have the opportunity to, because they're bleeding too much, right?
Because the ABK stuff. Yeah,
they're bleeding too much. The ABK stuff, they are bleeding too much. The hardware itself, not of taking the hits, right? Of basically, like, had they been staying neck and neck with PlayStation throughout this whole time since both the consoles launch, I think we probably wouldn't see this, and they would probably do the business as usual, and we would see the more exclusive strategy. But I think with the price tag of ABK and then the hardware sales declining, I think they were forced to have to pivot to basically justify to the powers that be why they were able to go all in with those purchases of those publishers. So that's why I think we wouldn't really get a chance to see it.
This is the right move for them and where they are and what they acquired. It is the right move. That doesn't mean it's the right thing for us, or maybe or that we have to like it.
Yeah,
but I do think it makes good. I do think it makes good business sense, and it is the right thing, and they will be successful, at least from a monetary perspective from this. And I think they'll end up making more money in the long run. A lot of people think they're chasing fast dollars now at the detriment of more money in the future. I don't think so. I think they will end up making more money doing this. And the reason I think that is because we have evidence of publishers like EA and Activision making much higher margins than the platform holders. Right?
True.
Yeah. So again, but that money's not going in my pocket, so I don't care as a gamer. What I care about is the quality of the experiences in the ecosystem that they are offering. And that's where my focus will continue to be.
So Game Logic in the chat speaks no truer words. He says, bring back Windows Phone, you cowards.
Facts.
And the Great Soil Tat with a $2 super chat says what I always should be saying, because I'm a bad host. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much. And I think on that note, we're 3 minutes past our mark, but we're done. We out. This is the most concise we've ever been on a show. Damn it. Amazing. This is amazing. Anyway.
Well done, fam. Well done. Kept us on task.
By and large, right? I think by and large that is due to the great Dante Moody. Sir, thank you for being here. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
See you in June.
Hopefully we're there.
Hopefully, right?
Hopefully it all works out.
Bro, I already have the hotel booked. If I have to, I'm just gonna be hanging out in LA by myself. I'm gonna be there. We going. It's gonna be good. But it's great to have you here. Man. Tell people where they can keep up with your ongoings on the internet.
Yeah. So you guys can catch me on socials. Dante J Moody. I'm on Twitter and Threads and all that good stuff. You can catch me on Fridays on the Infinite podcast with the homie Risk for Biscuit, Infinite Umbra, Garuda, and that blue number Holly. Which shout out to Holly. She's going to start streaming. So if anyone who follows that blue number, I think this weekend she's going to start streaming. And I think Split Fiction, is that the name of the game?
Yeah. Split Fiction.
Okay. I think that's one of the games that her and Red were gonna try out. So you might want to check that out. Give her a follow if you're on Twitch, and check her out on her Twitter page. And yeah, man, it's been a pleasure rocking out for you guys. Your chat is always really dope. I see some familiar faces and some new faces, so it's good to see all the good, insightful comments. Man, you guys are really, really polite, but at the same time, very smart, very, very thoughtful. And it's always good chopping up yourself and Everborn, man. Everborn, sorry that you're sick, bro. I hope you you get better.
I'm sorry too.
I can hear it in your voice and stuff. So,
I should also mention on our way out once again, the great Infinite Umbra will be hosting a roundtable of Avowed. Mr. The great Slow-Mo Backslap, Mr. Lucius Augustus will be joining him. They'll be talking about it. I haven't finished it completely, so hopefully there will be a non-spoiler section for some of us who haven't finished it, but I'm excited to check out the conversation. That begins at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go check out the Infinite Umbra YouTube channel, and we will be there. We'll be in the chat listening to him as it goes on. Mr. Everborn Saga, sir, I know you're not feeling well. What you're gonna be doing the rest of this week? I know you won't be on Discord. Where else can we find you?
On everbornsaga.com, where if you use the code GCP at checkout, you'll get 15% off your order. There's no limit to that, by the way. So order to your heart's content, use GCP at checkout, all capital letters, and you will get that discount. And I'll be on the Discord. Don't look for me on Twitter. I'm not really posting there these days. I'm trying to do a timeline cleanse. I find it's working.
I feel you, bro. I feel you.
No, listen, man. Life has been a lot less stressful, and my attention span is getting better. So you read tweets all day. I'm telling you, it makes you stupid.
Not one lie told, man. Not one lie told.
Just try it for a week and then see how you feel on the other side of it.
But with that, I say we're all set here. We're done. Please continue to check out all the great gamers and all the great gaming conversations that are happening there. We will be, of course, doing real quick before we even get out of here. I should mention myself and John Wolf. We do the Gamers Playground, but we haven't had a chance to do the show in the last couple of weeks. It's because life has happened and a few things. But we're also thinking of changing up the format of the show. We'll pick a different day, and we'll pick a different style of how that show will be made. So stay tuned. Right, we're not doing it on Mondays anymore, so you won't see it on Gamers Playground on Mondays. But stay tuned. I think Tuesdays we're thinking of doing Tuesdays, and we're thinking of a different format. Should be interesting. Should be fun. Also very much PC focused. More tutorialized. Maybe more informational. We'll figure it out. But we're working the logistics there. So in case you haven't seen Gamers Playground in your feed in the last couple of days, that is probably why. But yeah, that's it, man. We're done. I am 8 minutes late to my kid's birthday party, which is over there, and then the kids gonna start going. So that's it for us this week. GCP has been a little shorter than you're used to, but we'll be back next week and some weeks to come. We have some very, very fun, interesting things afoot. Some interesting interviews going on. Some devs and things. We're gonna get back to it. But until next week, it's been fun. Talk to y'all. Peace.
Nice to be in orbit.